Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram. You want to do that? Come, Kamash.
Don't have the words.
Okay, I'll do them quick.
Okay, you do it.
Narayan Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiriyat Nasta Prayasya Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastake. So we start with the instructions today, and I'll try and cover as much as I can because we've already done the instructions up to chapter 40, so it'll be from chapter 41, 42 onwards, and it'll be hopefully 20, 30 chapters, whatever we can. And if anybody wants to contribute in between, if they remember something, and some things I might have already forgotten, and the instructions might remind us of something that was there in the 10th canto in those chapters. But certainly it's not something you can remember all of the time. So this is the time when, try to remember, oh, did we read this or did that happen? Was this in this chapter or that chapter? But certainly this is all Krishna's pastimes. So, and if anybody wants to read in between, by all means, you're welcome. But so I'm going to cover chapter 41. So in these chapters, we see how Krishna and Balaram enter Mathura and how they perform amazing pastimes of killing the washerman, who was an arrogant servant of Kamsa. And he also rewards the weaver who adorned him with garland, and also the garland maker, Sudama, who worshipped the lordship with ointment, sandalwood, etc. So then Krishna and Balaram has come to Mathura. They've entered Mathura, and then all of a sudden all these pastimes starts to take place in Mathura, where all the residents of Mathura, certainly the women of Mathura, are admiring Krishna and Balaram and saying things like how fortunate the gopis are in Vrindavan to have the darshan of Krishna all the time. And then this arrogant washerman, Krishna approaches them and says, oh, can you give us some clothes and all that? And he started being very arrogant and insulting to Krishna. So then Krishna just kills him, and then distributes the clothes. And then all the others will run away. So that's the sort of thing I can remember about that. And also there was a garland maker, Sudama, who worshipped the lordship. And so certainly these are happening as they enter. Krishna also breaks the sacrificial bow, and then he kills the elephant and he fights with the wrestlers. And this is the part where when the sacrificial bow and killing the elephant and all that starts to put fear. And obviously all these activities struck anxiety and fear in the heart of King Kans. And he could not for a moment rest or sleep with ease. So these chapters covered these pastimes. If anybody wants to add anything around this time, anything they can remember, certainly the wrestlers was Kans's, that sort of activity was there to please the king. He set up this like a entertainment show for himself, but actually, he's putting other people's lives in the name of entertainment. And certainly Krishna and Balaram likes these kind of activities, which are wrestling and, with the elephant. And certainly when the elephant was killed, he pulled out the tusk of the elephant. The elephant had a name and everything. So that's what I can remember. So if anybody wants to add anything, by all means, unmute and say, and I'll go on to chapter 44 then. I couldn't get many pictures this time. I was trying to look for some pictures to add on to this, but I can't. So I'll go on to chapter 43, or in this chapter, everyone saw Krishna through their own perspective, like Kansa, the wrestlers. So to continue probably with chapter 43 a bit, that, everybody was seeing Krishna from their own perspective. The residents of Mathura, the women, the visitors, and certainly all, the wrestlers and all. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that as Srila Rupa Goswami elaborately explains in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there are five main rasas: neutrality, servitude, friendship, paternal love, and conjugal love. And 7 secondary rasas: amazement, humor, chivalry, compassion, fury, fear, and dread. So after the secondary, obviously you can see Kansa was feeling that fear, the dread. He was with anger as well. And then certainly Krishna shows compassion on that one woman. I think he makes her spine straight and blesses her. So thus altogether, there are 12 rasas, and the supreme objective of all is Sri Krishna himself. In other words, our love and affection are actually meant for Krishna. So whatever rasas we try to develop, in the beginning, we might just be neutral or against Krishna or an atheistic view. We don't believe in God and all that. Then we start to become a bit neutral, or there is God or not, I don't care. But then we start to serve, we start to have friendships. You start to learn all this by being in the association of devotees. Oh, sorry.
Prabhuji,
What is this? Oh, sorry, it's my granddaughter's phone, and I had to read it and it went off. Sorry about that.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
yeah, you know that the one thing which I've just tried to understand from all these 12 rasas is that Kansa, Shishupal, etc., there's so much fury against Krishna. So in my opinion, I think this is one of the 7 secondary rasas. And hence, as you say here, the supreme object of them all is Sri Krishna himself. So because of fury or rage or anger being part of one of the 12 rasas, that's why they could attain salvation. Is that true thinking? Or
Well, that's right. Yeah, because there was always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Even Shishupal, although he was in the mood of envy, and we also see Pondrak. Pondrak is also another one. We'll come to his instruction later on. But he also, because he was thinking of Krishna all the time, he in fact thought better of Krishna. But when Krishna kills him, but Krishna is so merciful that he actually frees them from this negative or the rasa that they have, frees them from all that. Otherwise, it just makes them suffer more and more. I mean, just to keep thinking about Krishna in a negative way, like Kamsa, all the time. And then because of his position and think of Krishna all the time in a negative way, he actually starts to commit atrocities as well on his fellow citizens and all that. So yeah, Krishna will free them from that kind of rasa, but certainly give them neutrality or liberation, which is Swarupya or different types of yeah. No, that's a good way of looking at it that way. Okay. We may also, sometimes, in our personal life, we think, how can this kind of work? So we start to develop from neutrality to, so we want to serve Krishna in some way, but we want to become friendlier to Krishna. And some people at times, when they first start off in Krishna consciousness, they don't understand that, they're probably doing activities which are negative, not conducive to Krishna conscious activities. So then Krishna starts to help them from within. And as I was reading just today, that I give them the knowledge by which they can come to me. So Krishna guides them and gets them away from. So for example, some friends of mine who came into Krishna consciousness before, they used to have business selling meat, but they were not very happy with that sort of position, so slowly they somehow over a period of time, Krishna guides them, and eventually they come to a point where they're no longer selling meat or no longer doing that kind of business or negative habits that they might have. In some cases, even extreme, like, we see some acharya who had really bad associations, and then they drifted away from that kind of association. So Krishna will certainly help. Yeah, okay, thank you. Any more? So, and that the solution is simple: surrender to Krishna, love Krishna's devotees, and be happy forever. So that's what we need to start to do, is surrender to Krishna. Krishna, you are the supreme Lord. Bless us, be merciful to us, and pray like that, and then start to love Krishna and his devotees. We see his devotees are also kind and helpful when they have that bhav. Even in Ukraine, I saw pictures of how devotees were cooking in the shelters, trying to help the people and feed them, and they're risking their lives, but certainly they have that kind of mood, not out there to harass people all the time. Okay, thank you. So chapter 44, in this chapter, verse 13 is interesting, and to note the difference in the mood and rasas expressed by the ladies in the audience between Vrindavans and Mathura. So how pious are the tracts of land in Braj, for there the primeval personality of Godhead, disguising himself with human traits, wanders about enacting his many pastimes. Adorned with wonderfully variegated forest garland, he whose feet are worshipped by Lord Shiva and Goddess Rama vibrates his flute as he tends the cows in the company of Balaram. So these are some of the ladies in the audience in Mathura. Srila Prabhupada further elaborates that they want to indicate that in Vrindavan, Krishna simply enjoys with his girlfriends and boyfriends, whereas here in Mathura, the Lord is subjected to harassment by the bullying tactics of professional wrestlers. Thus, the ladies are condemning the city of Mathura because of their pain at seeing Krishna in what they consider an unfair wrestling match. Of course, Mathura is also one of the Lord's eternal abodes, but here the women in the assembly express their love in a sort of a critical mood. So Srila Prabhupada explains in that way the power of the women, thinking. So, okay, that was that in Mathura, chapter 45. In this chapter, we should take note of how both Krishna and Balaram follows all the rules of Sanatana Dharma as perfect children, grandsons, and students receiving Brahminical initiation, going to Gurukul. So after he has killed Kamsa, then Krishna and Balaram, they both follow the rules just to set an example that, although being Supreme Lord, they want to follow this, set an perfect example of going to, they show their perfect respect to their parents, to Devaki, Yashoda, to Vasudev, and obviously their grandsons as well, Ugrasen, and he liberates them, frees them, then they actually start to take Brahminical initiation. But this is a culture of Sanatana Dharma where the young boys are taught to take on Brahminical initiation, where they go to Gurukul and take on spiritual master. Also, we should note the submissive attitude with which they approach and serve Sandipani Muni, who then educates them in the Vedas, Upanishads, Dhanurveda. So the guru is then going to teach them everything. Krishna doesn't need to learn all these things. He knows everything. He is the origin of Vedas. So what to speak of want to get educated in them? But this is to set an example. And for thousands of years, this is what the tradition was, that, the children were taught in gurukuls. School systems work very brilliantly in India till the British came, or the other cultures start to impose their systems on, and they realized that, you know, actually every village had some sort of an education system which worked for thousands of years. And then they imposed this corrupt education system. And then this is where we are at the moment in Bharat with Sanatana Dharma. The children, in some cultures, the children are not educated and given some sound principles. In fact, they are taught to go and commit atrocities because they themselves have been violated in a way, performing some kind of ritualistic activities on their body. Then they feel traumatized, and then you know, I mean, I won't go into the details of those sort of things, but that's their initiation ceremony, like, which is unfortunate, you know. So he also taught them the Dhanurvedas, and in its most confidential secrets, the standard books of law, the methods of logic, reasoning, philosophical debate, sixfold science of politics, all this was in the Vedas and in the teachings. So they're taught all these sort of things, you know, which is very high. O King, best of persons, Krishna and Balaram, being themselves the original promulgators of all varieties of knowledge, could immediately assimilate each and every subject after hearing it explained just once. Thus, with fixed concentration, they learned the 64 arts and skills in as many days and nights. Thereafter, O King, they satisfied their spiritual master by offering him Guru Dakshina. So after all that, they offered Guru Dakshina as well, which is a tradition, you know, which is what Krishna and Balaram they're teaching. But in those 64 arts and skills, if you actually look at that purport to this verse, find this verse, and you'll see so many different skills of Krishna. I was amazed to read some of those arts and skills that Krishna and Balaram were being taught. But this is what was being taught in the Gurukuls. And it's amazing. It's just the list is amazing. So once you refer to it, you realize this is the sort of thing, logic and politics, skill of even like something like, I don't know whether that was there or not, skill of flying a kite or something. It was just amazing. But anyway, you should refer to that. So that's a tradition in Sanatana Dharma. So 46, then in this chapter we learn why Krishna sends Uddhav to Vrindavan and how he is received by Nanda Maharaj. These are beautiful descriptions of Gokul at dawn. Beyond this outwardly beauty, there was obviously suffering and separation from Krishna by all the Brijvasis. So this is a description of how beautiful Gokul was at dawn when Uddhav arrives in Gokul, and he goes to Nanda Maharaj and is being received by Nanda Maharaj, how he receives him. And, you know, that's a traditional way of receiving a guest properly. But underneath lying all this was this pain of separation from Krishna. We see how Uddhav tries to pacify Nanda Maharaj with philosophical reasoning. So obviously Uddhav tries to pacify Nanda Maharaj as well. And then later on, he goes on to try to pacify the gopis. So we should study how Uddhav has to hear the gopis express their deep, transcendental, loving relationship with Krishna, and especially Radharani's use of Abhijalpa, Avajalpa, Sanjalpa, Ujalpa, Vijalpa, Prajalpa. These are all kind of nicely explained in the purports, referring to Vishwanath Chakravarti, Srila Rupa Goswami, and Ujjwala Nilamana, to express her mood of separation from Krishna. So she uses all these different use of this jalpa. Prajalpa means talking negatively, you know, like jalpa. It's like expressions using words in the mood. So that's what Uddhav has to deal with, and he tries to then. Uddhav then realizes how advanced these devoted gopis are in their relationship with Krishna. And then in verse 61, he says, the gopis of Vrindavan have given up the association of their husbands, sons, and other family members who are very difficult to give up, and they have forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, Krishna. Which one should search for by Vedic knowledge? Or let me be fortunate enough to be one of the bushes, creepers, or herbs in Vrindavan, because the gopis trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet. So as the gopis live in Vrindavan, the dust of their lotus feet, to this day, even now, because Krishna has walked on those the streets and sand and the soil of Vrindavan, especially in places like Raman Reti and all that, that Raj is so different and so important. People, some of the devotees would go and roll around in that dust, then Uddhav feels that's the same mood, to let me be trampled by the feet of Lord. These gopis who are so advanced. This is the humility, and Prabhupada elaborates that Uddhav here shows the perfect Vaishnava attitude of humility. He does not pray to be equal to the gopis in their exalted state of love, but rather to take birth as a bush or creeper in Vrindavan, so that when they walk upon him, he will get the dust of their feet and thus be blessed. The shy gopis would never agree to give such blessings to a great personality like Uddhav. Therefore, he cleverly sought to get such mercy by taking birth as a plant in Vrindavan. So if you directly ask the gopis, or bless me, put your feet on my head, they would not have done that sort of thing. But certainly he indirectly wants to be a plant in Vrindavan. We should also take the instruction in this verse to heart. This is Nanda and other cowherd boys say, may our mental functions always take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. May our words always chant his names, and may our bodies always bow down to him and serve him. So this is their prayer. Wherever we are made to wander about this world by the Supreme Lord's will, in accordance with the reactions of our fruitive activity, may our good works and charity always grant us love for Lord Krishna. So here we are in UK, wherever you are, whichever world, whatever activities we have to do, we get the reactions of it. But may that be good work and charity, and it is direct, that will grant us the love for Krishna. So it's actually being Krishna conscious means we are doing things that are being conscious of Krishna all the time. We can't be 24 hours, but whatever we're doing, we try and do it as an offering to Krishna in his service. So that's Uddhav in chapter 49. We can learn the prayers of Kunti Devi, who reveals to Akrura. So obviously Uddhav is, we're going on to the part where Kunti Devi is also praying, and he reveals to Akrura, because I think Krishna sends Akrura to, is it Indraprasth, somewhere where Kunti and the Pandavas were, to find out what the state of affair is. So Kunti Devi is actually revealing to Akrura, now that I am suffering in the midst of my enemies like a dove in the midst of wolves, will Krishna come to console me and my fatherless sons with his words? So she's obviously feeling that she's in the midst of the enemies, surrounded by Kauravas, and the situation is not very favorable. But she's certainly praying and thinking of Krishna all the time, that will Krishna come? She surrenders and totally depends on the mercy of Krishna, and sees her situation as a blessing, and chants the names of Krishna. Krishna, Krishna Maya Yogin. Ishwat Mams Vishwa Bhavana. Prapanam Pai Govinda. Shishubis Chabisidatim. So this is actually there in she's praying, chanting the names of Krishna. And Namo Krishnaya Sudaya, Brahmanya Paramatmane, Yogeshwaraya Yogaya, Tvam Aham Sharanam Gata. So does anybody wants to say these prayers? Maybe Riyansh in Sanskrit, but we should try and learn these actually, because these are Kunti's praying and she's actually chanting Krishna's names here. Namo Krishna Sudaya.
I can do it, Prabhu Haribol.
Yeah, go on.
Krishna Krishna Mahayogin Isvatman Visvabhavana Prabhal Prapanam Pahi Govinda Si Shushmischavasidatim Nama Krishnaya Sudhaya Brahmane Paramatmane Yogeshwaraya Yogaya Tvam Aham Saranam Gata.
Can I recite, Prabhuji?
Yes, yeah, go on. Yeah, I think they're wonderful. So Kunti is very
I've taken a photo of these prayers. Yeah. Krishna Krishna Mahayogi Ishwatam Vishwabhavana Prapannam Pahi Govinda Shishubhisha Chava Shidatim Nama Krishnaya Sudaya Brahmana Paramatmane Yogeshwarya Yogaya Tvam Aham Sharanam Gata. Ah, very nice.
Yeah, anybody else can always learn this. It means I offer my obeisance unto you, Krishna, the supreme pure, the absolute truth and the super soul, the Lord of pure devotional service and the source of all knowledge. I have come to you for shelter. So, yeah,
Okay.
certainly. Oops, sorry. Anybody wants any comments on this? Okay, Haribol, wonderful. So that's Kunti's point of surrender and her situation, taking blessings from Krishna. Chapter 50 then, this chapter is amazing and reveals Sri Krishna's transcendental superhuman potencies, which includes incomparable scientific technologies, powers of control given to all demigods, and also respecting the rules, vows, and blessings of Mahadev to Gargya and more, like the construction of city under the sea. So, you know what this part is. We also have to take note of the purport that Jarasan came to Mathura with the clear intention of slaughtering every last person in the city, including Krishna and Balaram. It is out of this causeless mercy of the Lord that he gives the conditioned souls a taste of their own medicine and thus helps them become more sensitive to the laws of nature and the existence of the Supreme Godhead. Ultimately, Krishna awarded Jarasan and others killed on the battlefield spiritual liberation. The Lord is strict, but he is not malicious. In fact, he is an ocean of mercy. So this is, I think, the part where Jarasan attacks Krishna, Mathura so many times, and he's showing mercy to Jarasan. Can't remember much of the part unless I go back to that chapter, but certainly the instructions are from here that Krishna actually even awards Jarasan and others spiritual liberation, because ultimately he's actually making them realize that, you know, even if you have bad intentions of wanting to slaughter every man in the city, like, for example, there is an agenda nowadays that, you know, till every person becomes a certain religion, they want rest or something like that. They want to make sure they impose their way of and it's like killing the last person, then Hindustan will become whatever they want to make it. But Sanatana Dharma prevails every time because Krishna has established that Sanatana Dharma. So even people like Jarasan had also tried to do these sort of things, commit atrocities on people of Mathura. And then obviously Krishna then has to take all the people and build the city of Dwarka later on. We learn how Krishna resolves the situation of both Kalyavan and Muchkunda. So this is a situation where Kalyavan could not even grasp Krishna due to his impious deeds, but gets disintegrated by Muchkunda's glance in a cave after he kicks him and wakes him up. So this is the part, I think, where Krishna and something to do with the Samantaka jewel, and Kalyavan and Muchkunda had been given this power. He just wanted to sleep. I think he had served the demigods for a very long time, and he wanted to have a rest and go to sleep for a while. Then he was sleeping, resting in this cave, and Krishna has to chase Kalyavan. They both enter into this cave, and then Kalyavan ends up kicking Muchkunda and wakes him up. And on waking him up, he gets annoyed and he brings an end to Kalyavan, I think, something like that. Through Muchkunda's inquiries about Krishna and what he asked the Lord, who then tells him. So Muchkunda, once he is done, and he asks Krishna, what are you doing here? O king, in your next life. So Krishna then tells him that, in your very next life, you will become an excellent Brahman, the greatest well-wisher of all creatures, and certainly come to me alone. So this is some sort of pastime where he's trying to help and liberate Muchkunda from his curse of sleeping and having served the demigods. And as in the purport further explains that Sri Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, the Suhudam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shanti Vrichite. A person attains peace by understanding me to be the well-wishing friend of all living beings. Lord Krishna and his pure devotees work together to rescue the fallen souls from the ocean of illusion. This is the real purport of Krishna conscious movement. So Prabhupada is explaining how Suhudam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatvam Shanti Vrichate. So person attains peace. Only when we attain Krishna, understands Krishna. But Krishna is also, his pure devotees are all the time helping Krishna as well. They want to rescue these fallen souls and show the mercy. And in fact, the devotees are sometimes more merciful. So they'll bring Krishna consciousness to these people, fallen souls, like Prabhupada did. He traveled all the way to West, and then he brought Krishna consciousness and the knowledge of Krishna and Bhagavad Gita. It's only through that we are also understanding, or at least trying to understand Krishna, so we can have peace and understanding Krishna as a well-wishing friend. So when we pray, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu. Dina Bandhu means the friend of the Bandhu. You are the only person who's most friendly, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika. So we pray like that and understand Krishna more. 52, then in this chapter, Krishna's transcendental pastimes become unconventional and contradictory. So these sort of pastimes, when Krishna is very unconventional, some of his activities are contradictory, but then all these contradictions only resolve in Krishna. Krishna can act in certain ways which are amazing, but we can't understand from our perspective. He runs away from Jarasan in the battle and then marries Rukmini by kidnapping her by her own desire. So it was Rukmini's desire that she didn't want to get married to Shishupal. Rukmini, her brother was forcing her to get married, but she didn't want to. She, then writes to Krishna, sends a message via Brahman. The messenger then gives Krishna the message, and Krishna then rescues or so-called kidnaps her and marries Rukmini. So it seems contradictory, like why should you kidnap someone and get married and all that? But it seems very unconventional as well. And then Jarasan, in a battle, he runs away. The purport explains further that these pastimes are not whimsical, but are a part of a complex program structured and executed by the Lord himself for awakening the conditioned souls to their natural love and devotion for him and bringing them back to Godhead. So these are the purports of 53. We learn Krishna stole Rukmini from the midst of other inferior kings like Jarasan, Shishupal, etc. And then this purport, it is clear that the perverted intelligence of demons makes them perceive things in a way exactly opposite to reality. So it's actually saying that the demons, well, the perverted intelligence, I mean, there is intelligence, there is spiritual intelligence, there's proper intelligence, but the perverted intelligence makes them start to see things in a totally different opposite. What is real seems to be totally real. It is clearly stated that Krishna stole Rukmini like a lion taking his prey from the midst of the jackals. The demons, however, saw themselves as lions and Lord Krishna as an inferior creature. So this is their perverted intelligence. But without Krishna consciousness, life becomes most dangerous. So they didn't understand Krishna. They started to see him as a thief, as an inferior creature. They thought they were the lions, but actually it's the other way around. So that's what we learn. In 54, it's interesting to note that Jarasan pacifies Shishupal, understanding. It is interesting to note that Jarasan pacifies Shishupal, understanding the supremacy of time and favorable circumstances according to destiny and karma, and how he himself lost to Krishna 17 times, and then won, so-called he thought he won. He won the 18th time, not accepting the supremacy of the Lord in all these actions. I think it should be Lord. So Jarasan had lost to Krishna 17 times, but he thought he won the 18th time. But then he's trying to pacify Shishupal, because obviously Shishupal was going to get married to Rukmini. But then, he's being pacified because they're all friends, Shishupal and Kams, and they were all friends. He explains causes of happiness and distress. It's quite interesting that he's trying to become philosophical and uses destiny and karma. And this is how we try to understand, it was in your karma. Bhagya many times, it's your destiny. But it's the supremacy of the Lord. We learn how Rukmi gets dealt with by Krishna. So Krishna then deals with Rukmi, his brother. In contrast, we also learn how Lord Balaram instructs and pacifies Rukmini. So these are all pastimes. To Rukmini, Balaram says, your attitude is unfair, for like an arrogant person, you wish good for those who are inimical to all living beings, but who have done evil to your true well-wishers. Amazing how the perceptions are so opposite in demoniac and devotee viewpoints. So devotees view things differently, demoniac persons will view things differently. This will always be the perceptions. And finally, Sukdev Goswami said, thus enlightened by Lord Brahma, slender Rukmini forgot her depression and steadied her mind by spiritual intelligence. So this is, rather than have that perverted intelligence, this is what we got to try to get, this spiritual intelligence, which is what Rukmini then, Balaram helps her to get to that, because I think she was, at this point, she was thinking about her brother Rukmi, the way Krishna had dealt with him somehow. I've forgotten exactly what happened there, but I think Rukmi, I don't know whether Krishna killed him or what, I'm not sure now. But certainly Rukmi was in a depression. But the spiritual intelligence is what actually gets us out of depression we can steady our mind. And certainly, you know, we have to get enlightened. But even Lord Balaram, who is the original, we should pray to Lord Balaram because he's the Adi Guru as well. So I'll do 55 now. I think I'm aware of time. In Krishna's pastime, other expansions and plenary expansions also take part in amazing ways. So from the purport, in his English rendering of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada confirms that the absolute status of Pradyumna, Lord Krishna's first son, Pradyumna and Aniruddha are also expansions of the personality of Godhead, and thus they are all Vishnu Tattvas. At Dwarka, Lord Vasudev is engaged in his transcendental pastimes along with his plenary expansions, namely Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and therefore each and every one of them can be addressed as the personality of Godhead. From these pastimes, we can understand the position of different personalities like Rudra, Cupid, and other demigods, and also Narad Muni, who clarifies the situation even to Rukmini. So obviously, these are all different expansions, but we should understand that Krishna expands the Pradyumna, Aniruddha, but also Rudra, Lord Brahma, Cupid also, and different demigods. They're all for a reason. Krishna's plan is there, and these different personalities are there serving him in different capacities. So I'm aware of time now because I have to later on go and pick my granddaughter. So I'll try and stop here now. Mataji, if it's all right, 55 is what? Yeah, so Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai, jai.
Thank you, Madhusudan Prabhu. So tomorrow, you'll continue? Is that the idea? Oh, you're on mute.
Tomorrow is Wednesday, is it?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Wednesday. I can continue, yeah, tomorrow.
Okay. Tomorrow and Thursday, if you want. Friday, I think it's Srivas Pandit's appearance day. So we can talk about Srivas Pandit. And Saturday, if you're free, you're welcome to continue as well, if you haven't finished.
Yeah. Okay,
Nice.
it's long, I know. It is long.
Yeah, it's going to take time because there's a lot of nectar there. It's good. It's good. What you shared was really nice, but especially Kunti's prayers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be nice if he can take us through the whole chapter, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
It's very nicely, well instructed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hari Bol. Hare
Srimad
Krishna.
Bhagavatam ki jai. Madhusudan Prabhu ki jai.